Hello and welcome to my Stamperia Fortune mini album tutorial series designed for scrap and create. All of the products that I will be using to create this mini album and box will be linked in the description box below, so check those out, purchase your supplies, and follow along. In today's tutorial, we are going to be working on the back side of page 4. The first piece of cardstock you'll need to cut measures 5 1/4 by 4 1/2. On the 4 1/2 inch side, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch along that top edge and then use scissors to miter the ends on that 1/2 inch tab section. The next piece, it measures 6 5/8 by 4 inches. On the 6 5/8 inch side, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch on the right hand side, and then we're going to miter the ends on the 1/2 inch tab section. The next piece measures 6 1/2 by 5 1/2. Now on the 6 1/2 inch side, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch on the left hand side and then miter the ends on that 1/2 inch tab section. This next piece measures 1 3/4 by 8 1/4, and I don't need to score that piece. The final piece measures 5 1/4 by 8 inches. On the 8 inch side, we're going to score this at 4 inches. Now I'm going to fold on all of my score lines and use my bone folder to burnish those folds. Then I'll come back and we'll start placing these pieces on the page. Now I did go ahead and untie the ribbon on the back side of the page just so that it will lay a little bit flatter when I place my pieces on my page. I'm going to take my centering ruler here and I'm going to be using this on the right side of the page. So first thing I'm going to do is take my piece that is 6 5/8 by 4 inches, and I'm going to be placing this here on the right side so that that score line is lined up with the edge of my page. And then I'm going to burnish this down. Now I've moved my ruler to the left side of my page and I'm taking my 5 1/2 inch flap. I'll apply my adhesive here. Going to open this one up and then place this one in the center of my page, lining that score line up with the edge of my page. And then I will burnish this down once it is straight. I'm going to flip the smaller one closed, and now I'm going to come back for my 4 1/2 by 5 1/4 inch piece. I'll apply my adhesive here to this tab, and then this one I'm going to be placing here on the center of the front flap. I'm not measuring, I'm just eyeing this. You can measure this if you want it to be perfect. And you're going to line up that score line with the top edge of the page. The bottom edge should also be lined up. And then burnish this down. Now I'll go ahead and open all these up. I'm going to just set this in here for now. This is going to be a belly band once our ducted paper is on, and then this is going to be a card for the front of our belly band. So I'm going to set those inside of here for now. And that is all for the build of our page. So next I'm going to come in with my decorative papers and get started on that. I've taken this piece from the 12 by 12 and I've just cut these 3 cards. You can use whichever 3 you want, but I'm going to use these 3 for the front here on my first flap. Then opening up to the inside, from this paper here, I actually cut 2, not even thinking about this being a different size. So I cut 2 of these to 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. This one I'm going to place here. Then this one will go here. And then I'm going to cut 2 strips here to finish this part. I've gone ahead and cut from this leftover piece. It was the right size. It's 3 3/4. So I've just trimmed these down to 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to use these on the side of this photo mat. So I'll go ahead and put these on, then we'll come back and start decorating the rest of the flaps. Once this is covered, I'm going to go ahead and open this flap up. First, I need to place my magnets. So I'm going to place my magnet here in the center of the flap. And I'm going to be very careful where I place this so that it is about 1/2 inch from the edge to the center. Now I do have a charm on some of my twine. I'm going to apply my adhesive here around that. And I'm going to hang my charm off of the edge, making sure that the edges catch in my adhesive. Then I'll take my second magnet and place it on top of my first magnet. And I'm going to close this flap to place my magnet correctly here. Now from my 8x8 paper that looks like this, I've cut from the top right corner a piece that measures 5 3/4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to be placing this here, but first I need to place a swing tab to hold this top flap closed. So I have my little moon piece. I'm going to place it upside down like this. First, I've got my paper on my flap where it should go. Then I want this to come up to hit into my, move this, to hit into the middle of my moon so that it'll be up enough into my paper. And then I'm going to go ahead and pierce a hole down through my paper. Once I have a hole in my paper, I'm going to take one of my brads, place it down through my charm, and then down through the hole in the paper and open it up on the back side. Then I'm going to go ahead and adhere this paper to the front of my flap. So I now have my swing tab that will hold this closed. And it also holds this one closed, so this has to be down to open this one as well. Now from this paper here, again, I've taken and cut the bottom piece to 5 inches by 3 3/4. I'm going to place this here. Then I've cut another piece from this paper off of the side. It measures 7/8 by 3 3/4. I'm going to be placing this one here to cover the ends of that twine and the magnet, and then this one will be for my photo mat. Now I do this because I don't like to have photos over top of magnets because it adds additional layers so it doesn't catch as well, but also it can mess up your photo. So I try not to place magnets underneath where a photo should go. So I'm going to adhere those on, and then we're going to come back and add some decoration here. From my adhesive paper cutouts, I have the little judgment card. You can use any of them. There are a couple left. I think there might be the star. There might be one more. Then I've taken the little gems here, and I'm going to place the gems on the corners like this. So you can either place it straight or you can place it at an angle. And I think I'm going to place mine straight. So I'm not going to back these with cardstock. I'm just going to leave them how they are. And I'll place this one first. I'm trying to just center it with the flap. And then I'll add this gem here. And with the second gem, I'm going to place it down in this corner here. And all of that is actually hidden by this flap, so you only see it when this flap is open. So next I'm going to come in here and we're going to start working on this, and we'll add our belly band and card. From this paper here, I've cut the top left corner to 5 3/4 by 4 inches. I'm going to place it here in the center. Then I've taken from this 8 by 8 paper down here, I've cut a piece that measures 5 3/4 by 1 1/4. Then I cut this into 2 strips that measure 5/8 of an inch. So I'll place one strip here at the top and one here down at the bottom with a small space between these pieces. For the base of the page, I'm using this 12 by 12 paper here, and I've cut this to just slightly under 6 inches by 8 inches. And I'm just going to place this right here in the center. Then once that's on, I'm going to apply a thin line of adhesive in the top and the bottom of my belly band and place this here in the center of my page. Now I've gone ahead and cut my strips from this little 8 by 8 paper that we had left over that we used from here. I've cut 2 pieces. They measure 1 1/2 by 2 inches. I'm going to place one here at the top and one here at the bottom of this band. My card is going to go here in the center. So you don't have to worry about that center piece. You just want to make sure that you have this and line it up with the edge of your paper here and the edge of your paper here. Now, if you want this to definitely be tucked completely behind the card, there is enough paper left in that piece that you could cut this to 2 1/4 inches instead of 2 inches, and it will work a little bit easier for you instead of having to line everything up perfectly. Once my papers are on, I'm going to take my card. I'm just first going to eye this and place this on my page, and I'm going to then use my centering ruler to find the center. And it looks like for me, it is almost exactly where I have my paper. And then on this one, I am just going to very lightly draw some lines so that I know where this is going to go. And I'm going to apply my adhesive here, only on the center portion of my belly band. And then I'm going to find those faint lines that I drew to use them as a guide for placing this back on my page. And then I will adhere this down to the center. Now for the front of my card, I have another one of these cut to 3 of my cards from my 12 by 12. And I'm just going to place this here right on the front section. Now for the last piece that I'm cutting from is this here. It's the 8 by 8 paper. I've just cut 2 pieces to 5 inches by 3 3/4. And I'm going to place one here and one here as my photo mats. Now from the 8 by 8 paper, I did cut this little piece, and I'm going to place it on my top photo mat. I just have to decide whether I want to place it in the center or on the side. I could place it on the bottom as well. If I place it there, you can see it kind of breaks up both of those. So I think I might do that. So I'm going to apply just a thin line of adhesive to this little side sticking out here in this little piece here at the top on both of those. And then I'll place it right here at the top of my card. I'm going to adhere just those little pieces down so the photo can slide behind it. Then I'll go ahead and close this flap, and close this flap, and secure it with my swing tab. So now this page is completely finished. I'm going to come back here to this opposite side and tie this just so that it doesn't unfold and get bent. And before we finish this video, I am actually going to put all of my pages into my album, and we're going to add some decorative paper to our hinges. So we are almost finished. So stay tuned for that. Before I add my pages into my album, I'm going to add some decorative papers to my hinges. It'll be much easier to do before those pages are in. So I'm going to be using this 12 by 12 paper here, and I'm going to be cutting 13 pieces. So they're going to be going on these pieces here, not the parts with the mitered ends, but all the rest of my pieces on my hinge and the spine. They're going to be 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to cut them just slightly smaller than 8 1/4 inches. So I'm going to come back after I have my pieces cut and on my hinges to show you what they look like. Now all of my hinges and spine pieces are covered. I'm ready for my pages, so I'm going to go ahead and bring those in. Now with these pages, because they're not pocket pages, I can do them one at a time. So I'm going to start with my front portion of my hinge. Now I'm just going to place my adhesive then on this 1/2 inch tab on the front side only. Being very careful that I don't place adhesive past that score line, and not placing too much adhesive because I don't want this to warp and bend. Now I'm going to take my page and open it up. I'm going to flatten these hinges out and place my first page down so that it is right next to that score line. And then I'm going to flatten this so that it is straight across with the rest of my album. And now I'm going to burnish this down so that it adheres really well before I flip this page over, because I don't want this to move on me. Once it's on, I'm going to go ahead and flip over to the inside, and then I'm going to burnish this one more time. Now, with the rest of my page, when this folds over, it will attach to the back side of the hinge. So I'm going to place my adhesive here, but I'm also going to apply a thin line of adhesive right across the bottom to close that pocket on the bottom. Once I have that, I'm going to then apply my adhesive to my 1/2 inch tab here on this side. And once I have that covered, I will go ahead, make sure my charm isn't in there. I'm going to go ahead and close that page, flattening out on the bottom, and then using my bone folder to press this onto my page. Then I'm going to just take my fingers and press this one so that the bottom does close up. And so now we have the first page in the album. I'm going to go ahead and bring my second page in, and I'm going to repeat that same entire process, starting with applying my adhesive to the front side of hinge number 2. Then opening up my page, placing this right down next to my score line, and making sure that the top and bottom edges line up nice and straight. Then Using my bone folder, I'm going to go ahead and come in here and burnish this down. Now I'll go ahead and flip over to the inside, burnish one more time from the inside. Applying my thin line of adhesive across the bottom of my pocket, and then applying my adhesive to this tab on the back of the page. And then closing my page, I'll press this closed here and use my bone folder to burnish this down to close it onto the hinge. Now I have page 3. I will repeat that same process again, applying my adhesive first to the front side of the hinge. Then I'll open my page, lay this one down right next to the score line. And then use my bone folder to adhere this down. Now this page is a little bit thicker here because there's so many layers at the bottom. So you just want to make sure that you press really well so that it is adhered down. And I'll flip over to the back side. Some of my adhesive seeped out, so I'm just going to make sure that I wipe that up so that it doesn't cause the page to stick together. Now I'm going to apply my adhesive to the bottom and then to my 1/2 inch tab. And then I'm going to go ahead and close this page up, pressing everything together, making sure that this whole page is adhered down. Now this is a little bit of a thicker page, so I'm going to be really careful with this one and make sure that it does adhere before I move on to doing page number 4. Now I'm going to move on to page number 4. So starting with applying my adhesive to the front side of my hinge. And I'm going to open up my page and lay this down next to the score line and making sure that the top and the bottom edges are straight. And then I will burnish this down. Then I'm going to flip this page over to the back side. Apply my adhesive across the bottom edge. And then on that 1/2 inch tab. And then I'll close that page and squeeze that bottom page shut. And then use my bone folder here across this back part to seal that page. And so now all of my pages are in my album. I'll go ahead and close that up. So you do see that there is still some room. This is sagging, so there is definitely some room for adding some embellishments and including the photos if you do place photos in your album. Now that is everything for this part of the tutorial. We have our entire album completely put together and assembled except for all of our photo mats and inserts. So that's what we're going to work on in the next video. And then in the following video after that, I'm going to work on decorating the storage box for the album. So I'll see you in the next tutorial.